إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, we are at the 14th of Rabi' al-Akhir, 1438. We are today looking through the prophecies that occurred between the years 200 to 300. This is coinciding on the Gregorian calendar 822 to 923, which roughly is the 3rd century of the Muslims, the 3rd age. Right? Now, we're going to be looking at our first prophecy, which is the power of the Shia. Now, this prophecy was made 9 years after the Hijrah, in which the Prophet ﷺ said to Ali ibn Abi Talib, Abul Hasan, you and your supporters shall be in the paradise. There are a people who will claim that they love you, but they will think small of Islam and reject it. They will speak of it, but go out of it, just as the arrow passes through the body of the game on a hunt. They possess a title in which they shall be referred to as Rafidah. If you should come to know them, fight them, as they are idol worshippers. This is collected by Imam al-Daraqutni from Fudayl ibn Mazruq, from Abu Juhf, Dawood ibn Abi al-Awf, from Muhammad ibn Umar al-Hussein, from Zaynab, the daughter of Ali ibn Abi Talib, from Fatima, the daughter of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, there's another narration as well from Fatima the younger, from Fatima the elder, because Fatima the elder refers to Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She's known as Fatima al-Kubra. Fatima al-Kubra. Her laqab is As-Zahra. Zahra is not a last name. As-Zahra is a title, and it means radiant. Fatima As-Zahra is her title. Now, Fatima the younger is Fatima As-Sughra alayha salam wa alayhim as-salam. That is the name of the daughter of Fatima As-Zahra. Now, there's another narration from Ad-Daraqutni as well, which is narrated by Salama, in which the people asked the Prophet ﷺ when mentioning the Rafidah, Messenger of Allah, what is the sign of such people? He said, they do not go to Friday prayers, they do not pray in congregation, and they disparage the first generations. We have another hadith from Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal in his Musnad, Abu Ya'la al-Mawsili, and al-Tabarani, being narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, which is attributable marfu'. Attributable hadith marfu'. A marfu' hadith is a hadith in which a companion doesn't say the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. He says we were told. Now we know there's no one that could have told him but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that hadith is marfu'. There are different types of a hadith. A marfu' is, he says, we were told. So Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh gives this example. And it's an attributable hadith in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there will be at the end of time a people named the Rafidah. They shall reject Islam. When you see them, kill them, as they are idol worshippers. There is another hadith from Tabarani with a Hasan chain of transmission from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, who said, I was sitting in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and with him was Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said to Ali, there shall be in my ummah a people who feign love of the household. Feign is to pretend at. So if someone says he feigned illness, right? They shall feign love of the household, and they shall be named Rafidah. Kill them, as they are idol worshippers. Right. Now we're going to come, so we've got these prophecies laid out. Now we're going to come to Imam al-Barzanji, rahimahullah, who spoke on this matter. in his text, pages 56 to 60 and 65 to 70. Those are in your source. That's under the source area. He says, quote, "Of the tribulations that have occurred were the tribulation of the Fatimiyya, their conquest over the Western Muslim world, as well as Egypt around the year 300, and their manifestation of the Shia doctrine, giving aid to the way of the Batiniyya, and their negation of the religion. Their conquest over Lower Egypt occurred in the year 308, and their end came at the hand of Salahuddin Yusuf ibn Ayyub, the victorious king, in the year 564. May Allah bless and sanctify the soul of Salahuddin, and also reward him for the good he did to al-Islam." Close quote. This is talking about the very Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. This is talking about him. So he's the one that broke Fatimiyya control. When the Fatimiyya took over Lower Egypt, that's North Egypt, when they took control of it, because why is it called Lower? Because the Nile flows from north to south. That's why Upper Egypt is called the south, and Lower Egypt is called the north, because the Nile flows north to south. Now, they took over the Fatimiyya, and they were the original builders of Al-Azhar. They're the ones that built Cairo. The one who built Cairo was a man by the name of Al-Qahir Billah. He was a Fatimi ruler. Al-Qahir Billah. He was an Ismaili Shia. He built Cairo. So Cairo is called Al-Qahira. He built Al-Azhar. He built Cairo. He built those places. So they took that area over. Salah ad-Din comes and takes over on the back of that. And everything becomes Sunni. So much so that he interrupts the khutbah that the Ismaili Imam is giving at the time. He says the people of innovation don't have right to speak of Allah and His Messenger, and they don't have right to a Jumu'ah or khutbah. That was interrupted and stopped. Right. So return back to the text of Ibn Burzenji. He says, quote, "Part of the evil wrought by these people was that of Al-Hakim bi-Amidillah. He had an abode built, spread it out with fine furnishings, and had the scholars of fiqh and hadith seated therein in order to teach and disseminate knowledge. After 3 years, he had the location destroyed and killed the scholars of fiqh and hadith. A second trial came when At-Tahir ibn al-Hakim gathered 2,660 girls adorned with jewelry in a castle, and commanded that the doors be built so high and sealed so that all of them would die inside. After 6 months, the doors were broken down, fire was spread over them so that they were burned with their clothes and jewelry on. May Allah show neither this man mercy nor those who succeeded him." Close quote. So that's the end of the quote from Imam Burzenji. Now Imam al-Suyuti says of the Fatimiyya, he says, quote, "Ibn Abi Hajla said, Al-Hakim killed so many of the scholars that it is beyond count. He also ordered that the companions be cursed and that books on the topic should be hung on the gates of the masjids on street posts. After a period of time, he had all of this wiped out, destroyed what had been done before, and built in place of that a masjid. Then after that, he returned to the state that it had previously. He built schools and put therein scholars, sheikhs, and then killed them not long after destroying the schools. He forbade the Egyptians from eating mulukhiyah, as well as cress, citing his reason for the prohibition that Muawiyah had liked mulukhiyah and that Aisha had inclination towards cress. He went on to prohibit the selling of wet dates. He then had them gathered together and destroyed in a great fire. The amount destroyed was some 500 dinar. Al-Hakim went on to prohibit the selling of grapes and had 5,000 jars of honey poured into the Nile, along with the breaking of the jars in total. Next, he ordered that the Christians and Jews enter into Al-Islam by force. Not long after, he commanded them to return to their previous religions, and the people that apostated in 7 days were 6,000 individuals. Al-Hakim would then go on to destroy their churches and synagogues, but then a short time later rebuilt them. He finally claimed deity and that he was the Lord of Lords, having penned a letter, in the name of Al-Hakim, the merciful, the compassionate. He was able to gather around him many ignorant people and lavished upon them wealth in exchange for them calling him their divine God. When these ignorant people saw him, they would proclaim, "Unique God, one Lord, giver of life and giver of death." A group of the Batiniyya then penned a letter for him explaining therein that the soul of the Prophet Adam alayhi salam had transmigrated to that of Ali alayhi salam, and then finally to Al-Hakim. This book was taken and read in Cairo Central Masjid, and it was even carried so far as the mountains of Sham to be given. It also found its way to the valley of Taim and the outlying areas of Beni As. The people inclined towards this, and they were given wealth in return. Intoxicants, fornication, adultery were declared permissible for them, and he called them to the creed of Al-Hakim, and that after his death he would return and fill the earth with his presence. Close quote. So this is the end of the statement. And this is mentioned by Suyuti in Husn Muhadira, Volume 1, pages 173 to 175. Now, the identity of the Fatimiyya is going to be mentioned in just a moment. The Fatimiyya called themselves as such and were referred to as such. The Fatimiyya were Ismailiyya Shia, which he's going to explain what this is all about. There are different Shia groups, and they particularly were Ismaili Shia. They had their own qibla, their own masjids, their own building style, and they were called the Fatimiyya because their obsessive dedication to Fatima and their claimed love of the household of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, how does the identity of the Fatimiyya tie into the Shia Rafida? Imam Abul Karam al-Shahrastani, who died 549 Hijri, he answers by stating, quote, "We have already mentioned that the Ismailiyya are distinguished from the Musawiyya and the Twelvers, in that they affirm that Ismail ibn Ja'far, the eldest son of Ja'far as-Sadiq, is the grand Imam as explicitly mentioned in the beginning of the matter." Close quote. So they're distinguished. These people are, the Ismailiyya, are distinguished from the Musawiyya and the Twelvers, and that they believe that Ismail ibn Ja'far, the eldest son of Ja'far as-Sadiq, is the grand Imam. Why is that important? Well, most Shia are Twelvers. Sometimes they call themselves Jafaris, and they believe that there are 12 Imams. The Ismailiyya are often called Sab'iyya, Seveners, and they believe that Ismail ibn Ja'far is the rightful heir to the Imamship, which is the eldest son of Ja'far as-Sadiq, and that the Imamah finishes there. The Twelvers continue with the other son of Ja'far as-Sadiq. So this is where this is coming from. It has to do with the issue of succession. Imam al-Shahrastani says further, quote, "The most well-known name of this group is the Batiniyya. They were only given this title as according to their understanding everything that was mentioned and as manifest is internal, or batin. And for every aspect of revelation is a mystical and hidden interpretation. They have many other titles besides these according to what was mentioned. In Iraq they are called the Batiniyya, Qaramita, or the Mazdakiyya. In Khurasan they are called the Ta'limiyya, or atheists. When speaking of themselves they say, 'We are the Ismailiyya, as we distinguish ourselves from the other Shia groups by this name. Ismail is a name we take after an individual.' In the case of the original Batiniyya, they mixed their speech with some of that of the philosophers. They authored books on this subject and said of the Creator, exalted be He, 'We do not say that He is existent or non-existent. We do not say that He is knowing or ignorant. We do not say that He is able or incapable.' And this was the same with all the other attributes when they spoke of them." Close quote. So this is from Shahrastani's text, Al-Milal wal-Nahl, Volume 1, pages 140 to 142. So the Fatimiyya have different names. They're all Shia. But when you're listening to the Ismailiyya have many different names. Fatimiyya, Qaramita, Batiniyya. They have all these different names, right? But it's all the same. Seveners. Now, if we used another name, Agha Khanis, if you've heard of Agha Khanis, that are involved in horse racing and the gambling in the south of France, they're Ismailis. They're Ismailis. The Hashishiyin, known as the assassin group, that was from the Middle Ages, that tried to kill Marco Polo and these people, they're Ismailis, right? In fact, there's in the United Kingdom, there's what's called the Ismaili Center for Higher Studies, where it's an actual university here, right, where you can study these things. Now, our next prophecy that we're looking at is the consecutive appearance of false prophets. This prophecy was made in the 9th year after the Hijrah, and its fulfillment came to pass in 200 AH. Now, the prophecies run where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "There shall be in my ummah 30 liars, each of them claiming that he is a prophet, but I am the seal of the prophets. There shall be no prophet after me." This is collected by Imam Abu Dawud in his Sunan, At-Tirmidhi in his Jami' al-Sunan, Ibn Hibban in his Sahih, as well as Imam Muslim from the narration of Thawban in Al-Jami' al-Sahih, the Book of Tribulations and the Sign of the Hour, under the chapter when two Muslims face each other with their swords. There's another collection, Al-Bukhari, where the Prophet ﷺ warned of the signs and said, "The hour shall not be established until two large groups fight one another. One of them shall call the other. The hour shall not come until close to 30 false prophets arise, each of them claiming that he is a messenger of Allah." This is collected by Imam Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari in Al-Jami' al-Sahih, the Book of Virtues, under the chapter of the signs of prophethood in Islam. Imam Yahya an-Nawawi rahimahullah, he comments upon this hadith by saying, quote, "This means that there shall be these types of people that arise." Close quote. The Imam further stated and remarked, quote, "There are a large number of people that have come throughout the ages. May Allah the Exalted destroy them all and wipe out every trace of them. And may He do the same with every one that comes after." Close quote. Then we have commentary on this by Imam Barzanji, who says, quote, "Imam ibn Hajar al-Asqalani commented, the number 30 is indicating the sheer volume of false prophets and not the actual number 30 per se." Close quotes. When you hear this number 30, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's exactly 30, but there's going to be an extensive number. So 30 is being used to signify abundance. Imam Barzanji further declares, quote, "Regarding the specific number collected by Imam Ahmed from Hudhayfa with a sound chain, the Prophet ﷺ said, 'There will be in my ummah 27 liars, among them 4 women, and I am the seal of the prophets, whom there shall be no prophet after me.' This particular hadith is a proof that the narration of the 30 is referring to a number close to that, as one can look at the transmission and see that this understanding is strengthened by Imam al-Bukhari just mentioning what is close to 30. Imam ibn Hajar states that the 30 or more mentioned claiming prophethood is indicative of the number of false prophets. There is even another narration in which the Prophet ﷺ has said 70 liars only. But these groups will be calling to astrayness, like the extremists, Rafidah, Batiniya, Hululiyya, and the rest of the cults and their callers to what is known by necessity to be in opposition to that which the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came with in the first place. Ibn Hajar also emphasized that the hadith of Ali in the presence of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, in which Ali said to Abdullah ibn al-Karh, "Indeed, you shall be from them." Ibn al-Karh did not claim prophethood, he only exaggerated in the doctrines of Shiism. Close quote. So these ahadith, they're collected by Imam Ahmed, they're by Al-Bukhari, they're by Muslim, right? So we have numbers like 70 being mentioned, 27, 30, right? Now we have Imam Rajab al-Hanbali rahimahullah, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahumullah, both explaining some details of the false prophets to come. These two, they say, quote, "Among the 30 or so false prophets to appear was Musaylima, Al-Aswad al-Ansi, and Al-Mukhtar. The testimony of the truthfulness of the hadith of the false prophets came to pass in the last of the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. Musaylima manifested himself at Al-Yamama, while Al-Aswad al-Ansi arose in Yemen. During the Khilafah of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, there then appeared Tulayha ibn Khuwaylid among the Bani Asad ibn Khuzaymah. Not long after came Sajjah at-Tamimiyya from the Banu Tamim. Al-Aswad was killed before the death of the Prophet ﷺ, while Musaylima met his end in the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Tulayha repented from his sin and died upon Islam, according to the authentic position, in the Khilafah of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Sajjah also repented in that time, and it was accepted from her. The narrations about these 4 are well known in the texts of the historians. Then the first of the new false prophets to appear was Al-Mukhtar ibn Abi Ubaid al-Thaqafi, who conquered over Al-Kufa during the Khilafah of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Al-Thaqafi manifested his love for the household and called the people to seek out the killers of Al-Hussein alayhi salam. The people followed him in that, and due to this, many with him were killed, and even those who helped him suffered a similar fate. The people had great affection for him, and then Shaitan made it appear fair seeming to him that he claimed prophethood and declared that Jibreel came to him. Abu Dawood al-Tayalisi narrated with an authentic chain that Rifa'a ibn Shaddad said, I was thinking over the matter of Al-Mukhtar, so I went and entered into his presence one day. He said to me, I had come home and Jibreel rose from that very seat over there. He pointed out the location. Yaqub ibn Sufyan narrated with a sound chain from Ash-Sha'bi that Al-Ahnaf ibn Qais had the book of Al-Mukhtar shown to him and mentioned within the pages that he was a prophet. Abu Dawood narrated in his Sunan from the chain of Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, who said, I said to Ubayd ibn Amr, have you seen the situation regarding Al-Mukhtar? Do you include him among the false prophets mentioned in the Hadith? He said, I consider him among the very leaders of the pack of false prophets. Al-Mukhtar was killed in the year 65. Another false prophet was Al-Harth the liar, who appeared in the Khilafah of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and he was killed almost immediately. Then there appeared a body of false prophets during the reign of the Abbasids. Close quote. So this is giving us a sort of a selection of different false prophets that have come down through the ages. Now we continue until reaching the fulfillment of the great bulk of this hadith, where Al-Barzanji, rahimahullah, he says, quote, in another hadith collected by Abu Nu'aym, but narrated by Asma bint Abi Bakr, the Prophet ﷺ said, there shall come from Thaqif a liar and an oppressor. The companions said, the liar is Al-Mukhtar ibn Abi Ubaid, while the oppressor is Al-Hajj ibn Yusuf. They both hailed from Thaqif. There was also a poet who emerged, but then he repented. A large body of false prophets emerged during the age of the Abbasids. One of them appeared in the reign of Al-Mu'tamid, and he was the leader of the Zanj revolt from Habud. May Allah curse him. This is the same way that brought tribulations in Iraq and laid low the family of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This individual in Hubud claimed that he was sent to the entire creation. He brought forward his message, denied revelation, and said that he was given disclosures of the unseen. In the Khilafah of Al-Muqtafi, a man appeared named Yahya ibn Zakaruwayh al-Qarmati. Then after this came his brother Al-Hussein. He had brightness in his face and claimed that it was his sign. His cousin Isa ibn Mahrawayh claimed that his name was Al-Muddathir and that he is the one referred to in the surah bearing the same name. Isa ibn Mahrawayh also had a servant named Al-Mutawwaq, but he was renamed An-Nur. These people came to be in Sham, led many astray, caused corruption, called people to follow them from the mimbars, but then he was killed along with his master. May Allah curse him. During the Khilafah of Al-Muqtadir, there came a man named Abu Tahir al-Qarmati. Close quote. Now, when you see this last name, Qarmati, it is the singular of Qaramita. These people are Ismailis, the Shia. So when you see this name, Qarmati, remember what Imam al-Shahrastani said, that the Ismaili have many different names, Batiniya, Qaramita, all these different names. When you see this name, Qarmati or Qaramita, these are Ismailis. So what he's telling you is most of these people that are doing this are Ismailis. And what are the ahadith that are talking about? They're talking about the Rafida. And the Ismailis are from the Shia. So this is a fulfillment of much of this happening, which we're going to get to. So we turn back to the text of the Imam. He says, Imam Barzanji, rahimahullah, he says, quote, during the Khilafah of Al-Muqtadir, there came a man named Abu Tahir al-Qarmati, who came and took the black stone and broke it into pieces. He used to say, I am him by Allah. By Allah, I am him. He created the creation, and I shall bring them to the end. His tribulations will be remembered at another time. Will be mentioned at another time. The next appearance came in the Khilafah of Ar-Radi. A man came named Muhammad ibn Ali Ash-Shalamagani, but he was known as Ibn Abil Iraq. It was popularly known of him that he claimed divinity, that he claimed to have raised the dead. He was killed, and then he had his body crucified. There were a group of people from his followers that were also killed with him. After this, false prophet appeared in the time. After this, false prophets appeared in the time of Al-Muti'i, which was in the form of people claiming reincarnation. Among them was a young man that claimed that he was carrying the soul of Ali alayhi salam that came down the ages and came to reside in him. There was a woman that claimed that she had the soul of Fatima alayhi salam that came down the ages to her. Still another claimed that he was the angel Jibreel alayhi salam. They were destroyed and they had their prisoners turned over to the people of the household. Mu'izz ad-Dawla ordered the rest of them to be exiled. During the Khilaf of Al-Mustadir, in the year 499, there came a man from near the Badlands of Nahawand. He claimed prophethood with a large body of people following him. He would be taken and killed. Another group of false prophets appeared in the western countries of the Sahara, in which both men and women claimed titles. There was a man who named himself La and corrupted the well-known Hadith, La Nabiyya Ba'di, there is no prophet to come after me, to mean that the beginning, La, there is a prophet coming after him. So he made it seem as if the Prophet ﷺ had prophesied him as La. There was also a woman who claimed prophecy, and they mentioned to her that the Hadith mentioned moments ago. She said that the Hadith was only referring to male prophets and not those who were females. In consideration of this, we can see that there were 27 of the 30 false prophets that have come, and the matter is almost complete. Close quote. Now understand this. Imam al-Barzanji is making a distinction between false prophets and liars. Because one hadith says 30 false prophets and one says liars. Now he's saying of the false prophets, 27 of the 30 mentioned have come. So the matter is almost complete, meaning that most of it's come to pass, but it's still awaiting full fulfillment. So we've still got 3 big ones left, right? Now he goes on to say, quote, as for liars, that is unrestricted, as there shall always be an abundance of them. There are some liars who have claimed to be the Mahdi, which are many, and others claiming to be companions, as they saw the Prophet ﷺ in a vision. A popular individual who said this was Ar-Ratan from India. So there is no doubt that many of the prophecies on this matter have come to pass and are unfolding. Close quote. So this is a principle that's being given. Now in summing up, Imams Ibn Rajab and Ibn Hajar, they conclude, quote, and Allah the Exalted destroyed whoever came from among them, and those who came under their control. Those who were destroyed met their fate, while those who remained stood with their supporters. The last of these false prophets to come is the greater false prophet, the false Messiah. There shall come a full presentation on this in the Book of Tribulations in great detail, if Allah so wills. Close quote. Now this is, Al-Barzanji mentions this in pages 71 to 76 of his work. Imam an-Nawawi, volume 18, pages 44 to 46 of his work. Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali and Ibn Hajj al-Asqalani in their text, volume 6, pages 483 to 485. Now understand this then. These two Imams, Ibn Rajab and Ibn Hajar, they're saying that the last of these false prophets is the greater false prophet. So if 27 have come, we know the greater one of all of them is Al-Masih ad-Dajjal, which makes 28, which means there's 2 big ones left, right? 2 big ones. So understand the mind that these scholars are using when they're looking at this. They're saying liars are in abundance. But with regards to false prophets, we're looking at a specific amount, a specific type of people that we're examining. All right. Now, we look at the next prophecy, the overturning of mountains from their places. The date this prophecy was given was 9 years after the Hijrah. The fulfillment was 242 and 300 AH. Now the hadith is from Samurah radiallahu anhu, who narrated that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the following prophecy: "The hour shall not come until the mountains are moved from their places." This is collected by Imam al-Tabrani. Imam Jalaluddin al-Suyuti rahimahullah remarked, this prophecy, he remarked rahimahullah, quote, "This prophecy was fulfilled in the year 242 during the Khilafah of Al-Mutawakkil, in which he had a mountain in Yemen removed that had on it irrigation and gave it to his people. Others then came to the place where it had been irrigated. In the year 300 during the Khilafah of Al-Muqtadir, he had a mountain debased in Dinur, all the way down in the earth in order to make way. When this happened, water came out from under the location and flooded the villages nearby." Close quote. So we see then that mountain debasing had started at this point. Al-Barzinji discusses this in pages 77 to 78, and Tariq al-Khulafa by Imam Suyuti, pages 445 to 448. Now, understand this, then, debasing mountains. This began with these particular people. Now, you can look at today in Arabiya, the mounts of Al-Quwayqi'an, those mountains, they're gone. One of those is gone. And there are other historical places that belong to the history of the Muslims that are gone. They've been debased. Now, the process of debasing a mountain is a very complex process, and it takes a lot of time to do it. But they're gone. If you have an opportunity, look up in the news the fact that there's discussion about possibly debasing Mount Uhud, because it's in the way of some things that they want to get done, and they're also worried about how much shirk they're claiming is going on there. So understand that this is something that's been going on for a time, but it's ultimately fulfillment. When it started, it's 242 and 300 AH. Now we come to another prophecy, the desolation of Al-Madinah. The desolation of Al-Madinah. This prophecy was made 9 years after the Hijrah, and it was fulfilled in the year 160 AH. We have a number of ahadith. The Prophet ﷺ said to those gathered around him, "The people of Al-Madinah shall be expelled from it." Some of the people said, "Who shall expel them from it?" He ﷺ answered, "Evil rulers." This is collected by Imam Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba in his Musannaf. He ﷺ one day ascended Mount Uhud and faced Al-Madinah and said, "Woe be to what comes to it, a city that shall drive its inhabitants out, just as you see." This is collected by Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal in Al-Musnad with sound narrators. We have another hadith, a third one, where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ warned, "There shall come upon the people of Al-Madinah a matter that shall scare them so that they abandon the city. It shall lay bare everything else, and the same thing shall come to At-Ta'if, leaving nothing remaining. This will be the case until the foxes shall burrow in the markets and leave nothing behind." It was further said by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, "Al-Madinah shall be abandoned by you according to the best it had, until the dog and the wolf enter it, and some of the pillars of the masjid shall be urinated upon by these animals." Now, I didn't put the citation of these. These are both from Ahmed and Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba. I apologize, that's a typo on my part. So these are both from Ahmed and Ibn Abi Shayba in the Musannaf. Okay. Now we're going to look at what Al-Barzinji, who in page 52 to 53 of his said work, what he says of this matter. He declares, quote, "Al-Qadi Iyad declared, this has already happened in the first age, and the best of what was left of the place was the religion and the earthly life. By religion it is the scholars therein, and by the earthly life it is the location and the relative ease in living that the people possess. The historians have mentioned that most of the scholars exited from it, and the fruits remained behind in the outlying areas. Then they returned. Many that returned came and saw the warning that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave. In that, there were dogs urinating on the pillars of the masjid. Close quote. So, dogs urinating on the pillars of the masjid. So that has been fulfilled. Where Al-Madinah was depopulated. Now understand, Imam An-Nawawi, Al-Barzinji, and As-Safarini, this is an important point, that Al-Madinah being depopulated is not going to happen just once. There's going to be a series of depopulations, Al-Madinah and At-Taif. And the final one shall be in the end of time. So Al-Madinah won't be violated just once. It will be several times it will be violated. We come to another prophecy. This prophecy is the sword being raised against the Ummah. The date of this is 9 AH. The fulfillment of this prophecy was 190 AH. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, once the sword has been raised against my Ummah, it will not be lifted until the day of resurrection. This is collected by Imams Abu Dawood and Abu Isa at-Tirmidhi. So once the sword has been raised against the Ummah, right, Imam Abdul Ra'uf al-Munawi is going to start to talk about what that means. Right? He died 1031 of the Hijrah, and in his text, Faydul Qadir bi Sharh Jami' al-Saghir, Volume 1, pages 452 to 453. This is a commentary. Imam al-Suyuti gathered together more than 8,000 ahadith from the different collections of the Musnad, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, Nasa'i, al-Bukhari, Muslim. And it's called Al-Jami' al-Saghir, this text. Now, after that text was put together, another Shaikh, who was well known, came and put another several thousand ahadith with it, called Ziyada. So then it came to be known Al-Jami' al-Saghir wa Ziyada. Now, Faydul Qadir is Imam Abdul Ra'uf al-Munawi's commentary before the Ziyada was done. This is his commentary. He says, quote, this means fighting among the section of the Ummah that are believers, and these answered the call. Close quote. Now just this point. When we talk about the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are two sections of the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are two sections. This may help you when you read a hadith. So you might want to write this down. There are two Ummahs within the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'll say that again. There are two Ummahs within his Ummah. The first is Al-Ummatul Istijaba, those who answered the call. Those who answered the call. These are the Muslims of his Ummah. Those who answered the call. These are the people that they've heard the call and they've become Muslim. They've become Muslim. Evidence, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah shall never gather my Ummah upon error. Allah shall never gather my Ummah upon error. That's from Imam Tirmidhi. Now just a second. My Ummah upon error, this must be talking about the Muslims. Because are the kuffar in error? As an individual as well as groups? Yes. So it can't be talking about them. So these people must be Muslim. So these are the people that answer the call. Now there's a second class of people inside the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these are al-ummatu ghayru istijaba, those who have not answered the call. Those who have not answered the call. Now understand this. From the coming of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the end of time, that's his ummah. Now, I need to give evidence for this. Evidence, it's in Al-Bukhari. Any Jew or Christian from my ummah, any Jew or Christian from my ummah that hears about me, any Jew or Christian from my ummah that hears about me and rejects faith in me belongs to the people of the fire. The Jew and the Christian is a kafir, aren't they? Yet he said, my ummah. So from the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam coming to the end of time, that's all his ummah. Now those that answered, who believe in him, are from his ummah in the theological sense. That they are from him, they believe in him, they follow him. The unbelievers that are here are from his ummah in the sense that his call extends over them. So someone can't come on the day of judgment and say, well, I believed in Nabiyuna Isa alayhi salam. That's not the time for that call. That's not the time for that. That was another ummah. You can't do that now. Well, I believed in Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam. You can't do that now because that's not the time for that call. That's why that hadith in Al-Bukhari runs the way it does. Any Jew or Christian from my ummah that hears of me and rejects faith in me shall be from the people of the fire. That's why that hadith runs in that fashion. That's why sometimes when you hear certain ahadith that have been misinterpreted by a wretched cult, that where the Prophet ﷺ said, there'll be a section of my ummah that returns to the worship of idols. That means that now that you understand what I've told you about the two, do you understand how dangerous it is? Because it's like, well, it can't be talking about the Muslims of his ummah. It's talking about at the end of time when the cool breeze comes and takes those people, because the unbelievers are just as much from his ummah as the believers are. It's just they haven't answered the call. So every kafir that's living in this age is from his ummah in the sense that they are responsible for responding to his message. They're responsible for that. So I just wanted to mention that as a point because he just quoted it like it's a fact, like we all know it. But sometimes it needs to be stated because much has been done in the English language to sully this religion, which is another one of the signs of the end. But we'll discuss that later. Now, Imam al-Munawi, rahimahullah, he goes on to say, quote, the reference that it shall not be lifted from them until the day of resurrection means that this shall happen concurrently among them. At times it will lessen, and at times it shall increase, going in different directions. This hadith and the statement within it is an answer to the supplication that Allah put them over one another, and not put others over them as enemies from outside them. Al-Qadi ibn al-Arabi explained, this ummah was preserved from the sword coming against them for a period of time. This door was kept slammed shut until that door was opened by the killing of its Imam, Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anh. This was the beginning of the raising of the sword in tribulations. This hadith is collected by Imam al-Tirmidhi and is narrated by Thawban, who is the freed slave of Al-Mustafa, the chosen one, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam al-Tirmidhi said, this hadith is indeed authentic. Close quote. Now, I put 190 here because the highest level of increase in the ummah coming against each other, the beginning was Uthman. The highest level was post the Bani Umayyah, going into the Abbasids, where the sword was really against the Ummah because of all the tyrannical rulers and such. That's why I put that as there, because that was a benchmark between Uthman and the Abbasids. Also understand then, there was a prophecy where he's making reference to another hadith. This hadith and the statement within it are an answer to the supplication that Allah put them over one another. Meaning that there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ made 4 supplications. 4. In which one of them was, "O Allah, put my ummah over each other and don't have foreign aggressors being the rulers over them." Now, the fact that unbelievers won wars or took over sections of the Muslim world, they didn't stay there. They took people from amongst us and put them in power there. So the rulers of Egypt are Egyptians. They're tyrannical. They were put in by the unbelievers, but they're Egyptians. And the rulers over India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and all the 48 majority Muslim countries that have tyrannical leaders in them, they're all from them. Versus other countries that are under colonialism, under Cuba's colonialism, they had all these outside people. But the Muslim world, as an answer to the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, all the rulers that were put over them, they ruled them, but they ruled using these other people. And that's part of what's happened. So this ummah rose the sword against one another. And it shall not be lowered until the day of resurrection. Right? And there was another hadith that lists that he said, don't unite 2 swords, meaning don't let it be the case that we have that happening and unbelievers at the same time. So there'll be points in history where, for example, the Crusaders are coming into the Muslim world. But then the Muslims will have all these different Salatin and rulers that aren't tyrannical. But then there'll be a time where the rulers over Muslim lands are tyrannical. And then the unbelievers are staying aloof because they can control it from the outside. But it's not 2 together. It's different ages. And it lessens in some ages, and some ages it's really bloody. Right? This is the point that he's making. Now we come to another prophecy. This prophecy is Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal's stand, radiallahu anh. This prophecy was made in the year 9 after the Hijrah, and its fulfillment was 219. Ali ibn Shu'ayb al-Tusi stated, Ahmad ibn Hanbal to us bore the likeness which was mentioned of him by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There shall be in my ummah what was in the children of Israel, until there will be a saw placed on the head of any of them, but that shall not deter him from his religion. Collected by Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi in Tarikh Baghdad, volume 4, pages 415 to 418. Ibn al-Jawzi in his Manaqib al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, pages 176 to 178. Ibn Manzur in his Mukhtasar Tarikh Dimashq, volume 3, pages 243 to 245. Hanbal ibn Ishaq, the cousin of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and Mujiruddin al-Ulaymi, radiallahu anhuma, said of the beginning of the Great Inquisition, quote, the most correct understanding is that the Great Inquisition began in the year 219, which was narrated by his cousin, and in the book An-Nujum al-Zahira, close quote. Imam al-Ulaymi and many historians also explain, quote, the total time of the incarceration of the Imam was 30 months. This was from the beginning of the Great Inquisition in the time of al-Ma'mun up until he left prison in Ramadan of the year 230. Close quote. Now we come to the fact that Imam Ahmed knew that his oppression was meant to happen is clear based upon what Hanbal ibn Ishaq narrates from his cousin. So Imam Ahmed knew that this was meant to happen to him based upon what's about to be narrated from Hanbal ibn Ishaq. He says, quote, so when the time came for wudu, prayer, or sleep, he would remove his manacle from his legs and carry out his obligations. Once he completed his prayer, he would return the manacles to their original place. This was without the knowledge of the guard Ishaq ibn Ibrahim. I said to him, Uncle, when I was in jail, I would see you're praying. He responded, You see me praying with the people in jail? Are you aware of what it is I do? He was referring to removing the manacles. I responded, Indeed, I am aware of that. Close quote. So what he's saying is, Imam Ahmed, when he's going to do his worship, his wudu and other things, he's literally removing the manacles and making the wudu, making the salah. And then when he finishes his obligations, he puts them back on. So he could have, if he wanted to, he could have walked out of there. He's taking the manacles off. Someone's taking the manacles off themselves. He could have said, this is too much torture. I'm leaving. My back has had most of the flesh taken off. I was dragged around the city on the back with horses. I had horses kick me. I had a saw placed on my head. I had all these different issues that happened to me. That's enough now. I'm walking away from this. But instead, he would take off the manacles, do his worship, and then put them back on. So we understood very well what all this was about. Now, regarding the saw, beatings, punishments, and the like that he suffered, Imams Hanbal ibn Ishaq and Al-Ulaymi observed, quote, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was given 80 strikes with the lash. If an elephant had been struck in such a way, it would have been destroyed. Close quote. This is how badly they were beating him. Right? And this is mentioned by Al-Baghdadi, volume 4, pages 415 to 418. Dhikra Mihnat al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, pages 12 to 13 and 38 to 39, where the saw is mentioned, pages 38 to 39. Now understand, Dhikra Mihnat al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal means remembering the tribulation. Hanbal ibn Ishaq is the cousin of Imam Ahmad and was in prison. So this is an eyewitness account of him writing it. There are 3 eyewitness accounts of people that have written who were in prison with Imam Ahmad at the time and saw him undergo what he underwent. So this is another fulfilled prophecy. We have another prophecy. This prophecy is the first 3 generations. This prophecy was made 9 AH and was fulfilled 241 AH. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the following prophecy. The best generation is my generation. Then those who come next. Then those who come next. Then there shall come after them a generation. They shall bear witness before being asked to give it. They shall commit treachery and not be trustworthy in their word, and they will not fulfill their covenants. And they shall have obesity appear among them. This is collected by Imam Muslim. Imam Yahya Nawawi rahimahullah remarked of this. The authentic position is that the generation referred to is that of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second one are the followers of the companions, and the third is the followers of the companions. The people coming after them are bearing a blameworthy trait, in that they take oaths and bear witness while giving evidence. Due to this, some Maliki scholars rule that such a witness be rejected when someone is quick to swear while bearing witness. The position of the vast majority is that the witness is not rejected. The meaning of the hadith is that there shall be a people who gather between taking an oath and bearing witness, and then in the next instant they shall take an oath before bearing witness, or the opposite. Fatness appearing in them or among them is on account of meat eating in abundance, and they have a great deal of flesh on account of that. Those who are this size not on account of that do not fall under this ruling. Close quote. Now this is taken from Sahih Muslim Sharh al-Nawawi, volume 16, pages 81 to 89. Al-Brazinji mentions some of this in page 77 to 78 of his work. So we're saying if someone's just a meaty person, he's big and stocky, then he doesn't fall under this ruling. But he says the age is having fatness appearing among them because of overabundance of eating of meat. I repeat, meat is not a vegetable. It's not one of the 5 a day. I'm going to say that again, because excessive consumption of meat is sometimes what will lead to this, the bad health and all the angina. If you look at This, if you look at our ummah, one of the greatest tribulations that we're facing right now is not the sword. It's the spoon or the fork with the red meat. It's not always the sword. It is the chicken cacciatore. It's the lamb that's been just boiled until it's succulent, and all these other issues. It's not always the sword that's killing us. It used to be the Bedouins were killed by IDF soldiers. Now it's Pop-Tarts. If you're a Bedouin from the Negev, it's Pop-Tarts and Cheerios that are your great enemy, not the slash of Stinger missiles or other Israeli technology. So this is what happens in the later ages. Ibn Umar, radiallahu anh, there's a statement narrated where Ibn Umar, he saw a who was very obese, and he's going into the second, almost going into the third age, and he sees one of the rulers in that time, and he says, because he's wearing an ihram, but his belly is engorged and it's hanging over the wrap where he wraps around the azar, and he says, is this a kafir belly that I see you displaying here? Because it was something so unusual. It was something so unusual that this would happen. So understand that, obesity is one of those things that it's like the Prophet ﷺ, he isolated that as like a sign, right? Now, the fact that I put fulfillment is 241 because in the two texts, Ashadul Jihad by Dawood Al-Ani, pages 89 to 90, Imam Dawood Al-Ani mentions that the end of the first three generations was the death of Imam Ahmed, because he was the last one to have known someone who knew a companion who knew the Prophet ﷺ. So the first three generations ends with Imam Ahmed, as is mentioned by Imam Dawood Al-Ani in his Ashadul Jihad, pages 89 to 90. Hanbali ibn Ishaq mentions a quote from Qutaybah as well, when someone asked him, was Imam Ahmed among the senior tabi'een, the senior followers? He said not only was he among the senior, he was the last of them and the greatest of them. Right, so that's Qutaybah. So I didn't put that in here. That was my mistake. But if one wants the page numbers, I can give them again if they ask at the question and answer session. Now, our next prophecy is the Khawarij, the rise of the Khawarij. This is 9 AH, this prophecy. Its fulfillment was between 36 and 300 AH, which there were appearances of Khawarij, but then it was also what is known as concurrently, which means it appears again and again and again. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did make mention of them, and he ordered that they be fought and killed. He said of the Khawarij, they will exit from Islam just as an arrow leaves from the prey. Wherever you meet them, kill them. That's collected by Al-Bukhari. He also mentioned about them, they are the dogs of the fire. This is by Ibn Majah. He mentioned in another hadith, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they will kill the people of Islam. This is by Imam al-Bukhari. And in another hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, they are the worst of creation under the sky. This is from Ibn Majah. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, they recite the Quran and they think that it is in favor of them, but it is against them. This is collected by Imam Muslim in his collection. This group was known of by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when it was led by a man by the name of Dhul Khuwaisirah, who was described by the companions as having, quote, a shaved head, a thick unkempt beard, and his clothes tucked up above his ankles. Dhul Khuwaisirah had been unhappy with the charity he had received and told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad, fear Allah and be just. Right? This is again in Al-Bukhari's collection. So he tells the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad, fear Allah and be just. Right? So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, when some of the companions wanted to discipline him, he said, leave him, for they have their people. If you were to compare your prayer and fasting to theirs, you would look down upon your own. Yet they will go out of the religion as a hunter's arrow goes out of the prey he is hunting. If the hunter should check one part of the arrow, nothing is found. The same is the case with the other part and the other side of it. This is collected by Imam Bukhari. When speaking of them, the Prophet ﷺ stated, out of this man's offspring will be a people who will recite the Quran, but it will not go past their throats. They will go out of Islam, as the hunter's arrow goes out of its prey. They will kill Muslims and leave the idol worshippers. This is again collected by Imam al-Bukhari. So all these are references to the Khawarij. Now, there's another hadith, and I forgot to include it. That is my fault. Astaghfirullah. But the sheer volume of all this information, subhanallah, you'd wind up having several volumes in one lecture. So I'll just give the hadith. This hadith is in the collection of Imams Muslim and Abu Dawood. This hadith. And it mentions the Khawarij will come in every century until you fight them when they are in the army of the Dajjal. The Khawarij will come in every century until you fight them when they are in the army of the Dajjal. Our Prophet Dawood had to contend with them in his time. Our Prophet Dawood had to contend with them in his time. It's the end of the hadith. Now, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, he lived to see the rise of all 72 of the cults. So before they started sub-splintering, he saw them all as they were. So he discusses the Khawarij. He says of them, quote, they have exited from the religion, opposed the religion, pulled away from Islam, isolated themselves from the collective, gone astray from the path and the guidance, rebelled against the authority, unsheathed the sword against the ummah, made their blood and wealth permissible for spilling and seizure, showed enmity to those who opposed, except the one who believed as they do and upheld their beliefs and opinions, and established their astray ideas. They are insulters of the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his close relatives. They oppose them and disavow themselves of them, level charges of kufr and high treason against them. The Khawarij believe their opposition to the laws of the revealed law to be Islam. They do not believe in the punishment of the grave, the hawd, the intercession, or anyone exiting the fire from the believers who had entered it for a period of time. They say that whoever came with a lie or a sin, major or minor, and did not repent before his death is in the fire for all eternity. They have the same beliefs as the Bakariya regarding measured wealth, as well as having among them the Qadariyya, the Jahmiyya, the Murji'ah, and the Rafidah. They do not accept the collective, but actually oppose them and their Imam. They delay the prayer from its proper time, fast before sighting the crescent moon, break fast for Eid before sighting the crescent moon, contract marriage without a guardian or ruler to give permission for the girl, contract temporary marriage, commit some forms of riba regarding the dirham. They do not accept prayer in khufs or wiping over them, the authority of the ruler over them, the khilafah being seated in Quraysh, along with many other things with which they are in opposition to Islam and its people. It is sufficient that the people of astrayness be described, that their opinion, madhab, and religion are not from Islam at all. This is from Tabaqat Al-Hanbali, volume 1, pages 35 to 36. Imam Ahmed also says further, the Khawarij have many names. They are called Haruriya, from the people of Harura, while the Azariqa are from the people of Nafi' ibn al-Azraq. They have some of the most filthy beliefs, positions far from Islam and the Sunnah. The Najdiya started with their leader Najda ibn Amir al-Haruri. The Ibadiyya started with their leader Abdullah ibn Ibad. The Sufriya started with their leader Dawood ibn al-Nu'man, while the Khawarij also have the Muhallabiyya, Harithiyya, and the Kharramiyya. All these are Khawarij, rebellious sinners who oppose the Sunnah and have exited the religion. They speak of the Arabs and freemen as having the same ruling, and they do not believe the Arabs have neither right nor rank. And they do not love them but hate them. They show deep hatred, envy, and enmity towards them in their hearts. This is an evil statement innovated by a man from the people of Iraq. He was followed by a small group of people, and the curse was upon him. Close quote. Now that's from, again, Tabaqat Al-Hanbali, volume 1, pages 35 to 36. Now we have Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah, who also said of the Khawarij, he said, quote, the Khawarij have two popular characteristics about them, by which they have completely parted ways with the body of Muslims and their Imams. Number one, the first is their secession from the Sunnah and its proclamation of what is not a sin to be a sin, and the opposite. They actually manifested this in the face of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Dhul Khuwaisira at-Tamimi said to him, Muhammad, be just. Indeed, you have not been just. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, woe be to you, and who will be just if I am not just? Indeed, all is lost and finished if I am not just. The statement of At-Tamimi, indeed you have not been just, made the statement of the Prophet ﷺ to be useless and unjust. And the fact that he was told to be just showed that he believed that what he was commanding was good in regards to dividing the wealth, of which he did not think he received a sufficient portion. This description has within it the evidence that innovation is in opposition to the Sunnah. And At-Tamimi making the statement shows he affirmed what opposed the Sunnah and negated what was affirmed as the Sunnah. He considered as good what the Sunnah called evil and the opposite. If this was not the case, then there would have been no innovation. It so happens that one of the people of knowledge might have a slip or a mistake in one of the issues of religion. But with the people of innovation, they actually oppose the clear and well-known Sunnah. The Khawarij showed tyranny towards the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and went astray in his Sunnah, so they did not truly believe it necessary to obey and follow him. They only testified to what reached them of the Quran without what he mandated in the Sunnah, which opposes their claims that are based on taking out the external form of the Quran. Most of the people of innovation besides the Khawarij follow one another in this regard. These people of innovation hold their opinions that whatever the Messenger ﷺ says in contradiction to their writings, they do not follow it. Just as has been narrated from Amr ibn Abid in the Hadith of the most truthful one. The only way they can defend themselves with the proof is by either rejecting a text or making interpretation of the texts. This leads them to find fault with a chain of transmission, or in a Hadith in one instance, and then with the actual text of it next. If these methods fail, they simply will neither follow the next nor hold to the Sunnah, which the Messenger ﷺ brought to humanity. When they exhaust these options, they will not even hold to the true sense of the Quran. Number two, the Khawarij and the people of innovation have a point of declaring people unbelievers due to sins and mistakes, and they carry that to its furthest extent, in which they declare as licit the blood and wealth of the Muslims, and proclaim that the lands of Islam are lands of war, and that their land is an abode of faith. The great majority of the Rafida, Mu'tazila, and Jahmiyyah, and some extremists claim affiliation to the people of Hadith and Fiqh and their theologians, also speak in that same manner. This is a principle of innovation, which is established by the text of the Sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ and consensus of the first three generations that it is innovation. Therefore, the people of innovation declare that which is pardoned as a sin, and that which is a sin to be major kufr. It is necessary for the Muslim that he is aware of these two evil principles, as it will lead to some of the Muslims blaming, cursing, and declaring the blood and wealth of Muslims and people of innovation to be permissible for spilling and seizure. The two principles mentioned above contradict and oppose both the Sunnah and the collective, and whoever should oppose the Sunnah in what it came with, or the revealed law it possesses, is an innovator who has exited from the Sunnah. Close quote. Now this is from Al-Majmu' Fatawa, volume 19, pages 72 to 75, from the Ibn Qasim 1995 edition. It's important. So what he's mentioning about the Khawarij, you keep this in mind, because some of you, while you're reading this, you were nodding your heads because this is in our age, and it's in ages before us. And unfortunately, some of the slaves of Allah that would style themselves Sunnis, they have this in them. Now, Imam Imad al-Din ibn Kathir, rahimahullah, he says in his work, volume 7, pages 278 to 324, he says the following of the Khawarij. He says, quote, "These and other statements have been shown to have been authentically related from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding these people. The Khawarij rebelled in the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and they declared Ali, Uthman, Muawiyah, and whoever was with them to be unbelievers. They then considered as permissible the spilling of their blood and the taking of their wealth, and declared the lands of the Muslims to be abodes of war, and declaring their own lands to be abodes of faith. The Khawarij made the claim that they were the people of the Quran, and would not accept or acknowledge the Sunnah except the parts that agreed with their madhab. Anyone who opposed and rebelled against the locality and ideology of the Khawarij was believed by them to be an unbeliever. Their understanding was that Ali and the companions radiallahu anhum had associated partners with Allah, and they had no idea what was in the Quran. To further bolster and give validity to their claim and the actions that they took, they made the allegorical ayat of the Quran their proof, and implied the ayat revealed about the denying idol worshippers to the people of Islam, the great people of the companions, who were with them that called to the truth. And the Khawarij used to debate regarding the affairs of the religion. Sayyiduna ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu debated with them, and due to that some 4,000 of their ranks returned to the truth. Even with these ugly affairs, the clear kufr and rebellion against the Muslims and breaking off from them, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu said to them, "We do not mean you harm by way of warfare, nor do we forbid you from the masjids of Allah, where you mention therein His name, nor the wealth from warfare that remains in your hands that you took with us." Right after this, the Khawarij isolated themselves from the Muslims and announced to the Muslims, the Imam, and whoever was with them, that they were at war. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh moved against them, and they committed many actions against the Muslims. There were many reprehensible matters that came from them that have been described. Close quote. So this matter of the Khawarij has been given in detail. Now I'm just going to mention a little bit about the Khawarij, some of their subsets. If someone desires, they can so write it down. I'm going to be very terse and very brief. Okay. Now Imam al-Shahrastani, rahimahullah, in volume 1 of Al-Milal wal-Nahl, pages 84 to 100, describes the Khawarij in lengthy detail. Okay, volume 1, pages 84 to 100. I'm not going to go through all the pages, obviously, because simply is not enough time to do that, and we're doing a condensation. So I'm just going to quote the names of the particular sects and the people that founded them. All right. Now, the Khawarij, Imam al-Shahrastani says, the main sects of the Khawarij are the following. The main sects of the Khawarij are the following. This is on page 85, volume 1 of his text. He says they are the following. Al-Muhakkima, Al-Muhakkima, The next is Al-Azadiqah. Al-Azadiqah. After that is An-Najdat. An-Najdat. After them is the Al-Bayhasiyya. Al-Bayhasiyya. The Bayhasiyya are those who appear again and again. Every 100 years, they're the ones that keep showing up over and over again. Al-Bayhasiyya. After the Bayhasiyya are Al-Ajadida. Al-Ajadida. After Al-Ajadida is Al-Tha'aliba. Al-Tha'aliba, which literally means the foxes. Al-Tha'aliba, the foxes. After Al-Tha'aliba is Al-Ibadiyya. 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 And then finally, Al-Sufriyya. 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 So, Al-Sufriyya. Imam al-Shahrastani, rahimahullah, he says, these are the main groups of the Khawarij, and all other subsets that came out of these. Right? So out of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, these main 8 branches, every other branch of Khawarij has come out of these. Right? So we'll give a short definition of each one. The Imam al-Shahrastani, he says, the Muhakkima, their founder is Dhul Khuwaisira. The founder is Dhul Khuwaisira. Dhul Khuwaisira is the founder. The last of them was Dhu Athudayya. Dhu Athudayya. Now, Dhul Khuwaisira, that's in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the one that said, "O Muhammad, be just and fear Allah." That's him. Dhul Thudayya is the one that was killed by Ali in the battle of Nahrawan. Ali in that battle, the battle of Nahrawan, he killed all the Khawarij except for 9 of them. And they would come back and kill him. So he killed all the Khawarij in the battle of Nahrawan except for 9. And they escaped, and they would later come back and kill him. Now Ali is buried in Najaf in Iraq. There's actually 2 graves. Now someone that goes there thinks, why are there 2 graves for Ali? Because the Khawarij were so wicked that the people were scared they might dig up his body and desecrate the body. So people are looking, we don't know which one is Ali ibn Abi Talib. We don't know which one is his grave. Because they were so wicked that they were that concerned. So they had 2 graves for Ali ibn Abi Talib. Right? That's that first wave. So they were, for the most part, wiped out. Then they died out. So the Muhakkima, they died out. They died out. Now, after the Muhakkima, we have the Azadiqa. The Azadiqa. Now, the Azadiqa, let's put them in a slightly different order. Yes, the Azadiqa, they're the followers of a man named Abu Rashid. Followers of a man named Abu Rashid Nafi' ibn al-Azraq. Abu Rashid Nafi' ibn al-Azraq. Al-Azadiqa is literally the blue men. Because Nafi', his name, Nafi' ibn al-Azraq. Al-Azraq means the blue. The blue. They left from Al-Basra and they engaged in debate with the leaders of the Khawarij at that time. So they're in debate with the leaders of the Khawarij at that time. And they have eight masail that make them different than the Khawarij that came before them. 8 masail. One is that the first of these 8 distinctives is that they declare Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu to be a kafir. That's one of their distinctives. And they say that Ibn Muljum was correct to kill him. Ibn Muljum, that's Ali ibn Abi Talib, the assassin, that's his assassin. Ibn Muljum was correct to kill him and died a martyr. Now I'm going to continue. This is still the first masala. They also declared as kuffar Uthman, Talha, Az-Zubayr, Aisha, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and any Muslims that backed them, radiallahu anhum ajma'in, and said they're in the fire for all eternity. Number two of their distinctives. Whoever hesitates to fight for them is a kafir, even if he agrees with them. Whoever didn't make hijrah to them is a kafir. This is still the second masala. Whoever didn't make hijrah to them is a kafir, even if he agreed with them. The third distinctive. The third distinctive is the permissibility of killing women and children that disagree with them. Permissibility of killing women and children that disagree with them. The permissibility of killing women and children that disagree with them. All right, this is the third distinctive. The fourth distinctive is they do not punish adultery with stoning. They do not punish adultery with stoning. They don't punish those who slander chaste men. Because they say, we can't find it in the Quran. Because remember, these people are literalists. So they're like, if it doesn't literally say that, it's not in there. Even if it's intimated. Has to literally state that. Because it's not in there, we don't follow. As part of their fourth distinctive, those who slander chaste women are punished because it literally says that. Number 5 distinctive. The children of the idol worshippers are in the fire with the parents for eternity. So they refer to, they don't say children of the kuffar or children of the mushrikeen. They say mushrikeen. But those of Muslim Orthodox, they say, no, that's a child of the kuffar. Why? Because we don't know what's inside that child, what it's going to be. So we just say a child of the kuffar. We don't say a kafir child. It's a child of the kuffar. Child of the idol worshippers. Because we don't know what their ultimate end is. The next distinctive is that taqiyya, number 6, taqiyya, concealing one's religion, is not permitted in word or action. Concealing one's religion is not permitted in word or action. Number 7 distinctive, that prophets commit major and minor sins. That prophets commit major and minor sins, and that a prophet could have slipped and committed kufr. Imam al-Shahristani says, after quoting this, that is clear kufr. Right, so that statement, that's clear kufr. Because to say that, now when you're understanding this, balancing them against Muslim Orthodoxy, you see, okay, well, if they believe that, then certainly we don't believe that. Of course, that's correct. Right? Number 8. Whoever commits a major sin has exited Islam. Whoever commits a major sin, so all the things we know to be as major sins, fornication, adultery, taking intoxicants, whoever commits these is a kafir outside of the religion, to be in the fire for all eternity. And they say Iblis is the example because he did a major sin. And he's in the fire for eternity, although he knows the oneness of Allah. This is their argument. Okay. The next group of Khawarij are called the Najdat. As we mentioned, the Najdat. That's right. The Najdat. They are the followers of a man named Najda ibn Amir Al-Hanafi. Now he's called Al-Hanafi not because that's his madhab, because there's a tribe in Al-Yamama, in the Najd, called the Banu Hanifa. And so anyone from that tribe is called Hanafi. But doesn't necessarily, that's his madhab. No, he didn't have that, because the Khawarij believed that everyone's responsible for the entire revealed law, that everyone must be a mujtahid. And if it's not, you're a major kufr, because you have to be convinced of the knowledge yourself. So, the followers of Najda ibn Amr al-Hanafi, they were a subset of the Azariqa, but they fell out. They fell out with the Azariqa on a few issues. So they declared the Azariqa kuffar, and they gave Najda bay'ah, called him Amir al-Mu'mineen. They upheld many of the distinctives of the Azariqa, but they said the religion is two affairs. The religion's two affairs. Knowing Allah directly and knowing His messengers directly. Sparing the lives of those who agree with you because they're Muslim. Sparing the lives of those who agree with you because they're Muslim. Which means that those who do not agree with you, their lives don't have to be spared because they are not Muslim. So you spare the lives of those who agree with you because they're Muslim. Affirming in general what came from Allah. And it has to be explicitly stated as such. One is not pardoned from that. Then the second distinctive is whatever's besides that first point, people are pardoned until the evidence is established against them. People are pardoned until the evidence is established against them regarding halal and haram. They say, if someone says a mujtahid that makes a mistake, before the evidence is established on him, upon him, should be punished. Whoever said that's a kafir. So those are the distinctives from the other group. The next group are Al-Bayhasiyya. Only a few left. And again, most of this revolves around takfir. So these people that are breaking off is because they found some mistake in the leader they were with and said, he's kafir, and they had to give bay'ah to someone else. So Al-Bayhasiyya, they are the students of a man called Abu Bayhas. Abu Bayhas. Whose name is Al-Haytham ibn Jafir. Ibn Jabir. Excuse me. Al-Haytham ibn Jabir. They agreed with most of the other judgments, but created their own distinctives. They've got tons of distinctives, so I'm not going to mention all these. Some of the more salient features is, I'll put one of the main salient features of the Bayhasiyya is they consider everyone suspect until they've proven that they're sound. Right? They consider everyone suspect until they've proven that they're sound. And they don't pray behind anyone until they know his creed. Right? You may have heard this before. They don't pray behind anyone until they've heard his creed. Okay. The next group, they are called the Ajarida. The Ajarida. They are the students of Abdul Karim ibn Ajrid. Abdul Karim ibn Ajrid. They agree with the Najdat, but they have disputes with the Bayhasiyya. They say the young child must be disavowed until he's called to Islam and accepts. So when a child reaches 7, before that time, he's disavowed. He's not considered Muslim. He's disavowed. He's kafir. And then when he's 7, okay, we're going to call him to Islam now. If he doesn't respond, he's a kafir. If he does, then he's Muslim. Then he's Muslim. Because they understand the hadith, كُلُّ مَوْلُودٍ يُولَدْ عَلَى الْفِطْرَةِ. Every child is born the fitrah. They said that means he's predisposed to it. But that doesn't mean that that's what he is. So he's kafir until further notice. Because that's the default for the human race, is that they're kuffar. And they quote the example of how Allah will command out of every 1,999 remain and one will be taken out. So you see, that's the default of humanity is kufr. So until that's been assessed, whether he's Muslim or not, then he stays as he is. And they broke into several sects. Now, Al-Tha'aliba, They are the students of Tha'laba ibn Amir. Tha'laba ibn Amir. He was friends with Abdul Karim ibn Ajrid. He was friends with him. But they fell out regarding the matter of the children of the kuffar. So he was friends until Tha'laba fell out with him regarding the children of the kuffar. And then takfir resulted and Tha'laba were born. And then they formed more distinctives around themselves. So it starts from one incident and then they form distinctives. The next group is the Al-Ibadiyya. Al-Ibadiyya. They are the companions of Abdullah ibn Ibad. Abdullah ibn Ibad. They disputed with all other groups. One of their distinctives is the common people who disagree with us. The common people who disagree with us are kuffar, but they're not mushrikeen. So the common people that disagree with us, they're kuffar, but they're not idol worshippers. It's one of their distinctives. Okay. Then we have the Sufriya. The Sufriya. These are the supporters of a man named Ziyad ibn al-Asfar, the yellow. Ziyad ibn al-Asfar, the son of the yellow one. I don't know why he's yellow. He's the son of the yellow one. So usually in Arabic, al-Asfar, that like that, when you describe someone like that, it usually has to do with jaundice, paleness. Like when you describe someone's hair as being asfar or blonde, that's paleness. That's usually because in Arabic, is most of your things that are described as being pale or jaundiced are usually poisonous. Right. So, Ziyad ibn al-Asfar. They disputed with all the other Khawarij groups. In every point. But they did not label as kuffar those who would not fight for their religion. And they said that there are two types of shirk. The shirk of obedience to shaitan, and shirk of worshipping idols. So this means that to them all shirk is major. There's no minor shirk. There's no minor kufr. It's all major. According to Muslim Orthodoxy, there's two types of shirk, major and minor. If you say, okay, the shirk is obedience to shaitan, wait a minute. Obedience, if you say that every shirk, the shirk is obedience to shaitan, it can be major kufr, obeying shaitan. And then this is worship of idols, this is major shirk. It's clear. So there's no minor shirk. Now, one of the things that I mentioned is the Khawarij, all the Khawarij groups are agreed that interpretation and ignorance are not excuses that would stop takfir. So if someone says, well, he doesn't know that, well, subhanAllah, it's his job to find out. He says that he's a Muslim. If he's ignorant of this, it's clear that he's a kafir. Because who but a kafir would fail to know this information about Islam? Well, he's interpreting. How can he be interpreting? He has the Quran in front of him. There's no reason for him to interpret. Right? So these are some of the matters to do with the Khawarij. Again, this is to do with the Khawarij and all their many groups. And as I said, this is from Imam Shahrastani's book, Al-Milal wal-Nahl, pages 84 to 100. So I will say at this point, أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم أستغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم الحمد الرحيم ولا إله إلا الله. Is there a question over what we have covered so far today? I know it was 11 pages. I apologize, but there's nothing I could do about it. Yes?
One of the footnotes of page 9, where you mentioned masquerading.
Footnotes of page 9.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that therefore mean that Salafiyya is also part of the Khawarij?
That's going to be coming up under the between 1100 and 1200. But yes, the answer to that question short is yes. They're one of the occurrences of the Khawarij, but a full presentation of that is coming, in which you will probably be looking, I'm still trying to wind it down, but we are probably looking at possibly 20 pages. Do not leave the room. Possibly looking at 20 pages. So, yes.
The wisdom behind all sort of most of the things that we're quoting are coming from 9th Hijri. You know, most of the signs or whatever the Rasul is saying, it's 9th Hijri. So what's the wisdom in that?
Question is, what is the wisdom in these things coming from the 9th of the Hijrah? What will be the wisdom in the fact that the Prophet ﷺ, many of these prophecies are being fulfilled, are being mentioned 9 years after the Hijrah? What is the wisdom in that? Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Well, we have to remember most of these are occurring 2 years before he died. So the fact that he's giving these warnings 2 years before he died, he's making these series of prophecies, that should make us understand that, well, he's clearly winding everything down. He's winding up everything he's preparing, right? It would be the year before he died that the angel Jibreel alayhi salam would come and recite the Quran with him twice, and review over it twice. So this is a winding down process that we could sort of understand from this. Whereas if it was all over the place, many of these prophecies, some are going to be earlier than that, but many of these are coming 9AH, 9AH, 10AH. There's a few that are 11AH. It's like the year that he died. Listen, look out for this. Right? So he's winding up things, resolving everything, so that nothing's left. As he said in the Hadith, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I left you on clear guidance. على محجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. I left you on clear proof. Its night is like its day. No one leaves from it except he's destroyed. So it's like what he's giving us is clear. It's unvarnished, and we can understand it and grasp it. All right. Any other questions? Yes. Assalamu alaikum.
Talking on page 6 about the false prophets.
Yes.
And there are being 3 more left to come. What about the nation of Islam and their prophets?
Okay, so the question is on page 9, the listing about the false prophets to come, and that there are 3 remaining, 2 if you count Masih ad-Dajjal. What about Elijah Muhammad, who's the founder of the NOI? Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Alhamdulillah, this is a good question. If you really look at Elijah Muhammad, he's taking his information from a man named Wallace Dodd, who would later style himself W.D. Muhammad. Now, where did he get that from? Well, he met a man by the name of Maulana Muhammad Ali. Well, who's he? He learned from Bashiruddin Mahmud. Who's he? He's one of the sons of Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian. So if you follow the tree, he's not a major, he's sort of a shoot of a branch off of them. So that may be a reason why the scholars don't go into a lot of depth regarding him, because he's more of an appearance. Like the Sufriya, I didn't mention there's 11 different subsets of them, but it's like, well, it's just the branch of the same thing. NOI is just a subset. Because if you cut away, because the NOI members always stress to their people that they should only read 2 translations. The Abdullah Yusuf Ali and the Maulana Muhammad Ali. They're only allowed to look at those. Because if you shut the door to there being any more prophets and any more messengers, that eliminates Elijah Muhammad, who calls himself the messenger of Allah when he was alive. If you shut the door to Ahmadiyya, it shuts the door to the NOI, because they depended on that. So that may be a reason for that.
Just on the back of that, what about Ahmad al-Qadian?
That's Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian. He's one of the major liars, and he will come up. His discussion around him. There's about a 130-page book that Al-Azhar put together regarding the fitna that he caused. You see, so there's something to do with that. Yeah, he's one of the major tribulations. He's called one of the minor pretentious dajjals. One of the minor pretentious dajjals. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I just had a general question regarding prophecy, regarding one of the companions. Waraka bin al-Harith, she was referred to as Shahida by the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She also led the prayer in her home. And it's well known that women can't go on jihad, even though she was referred to as Shahida, but then she later on died while praying in her home. Could that be also seen as a prophecy of the way she died as a Shaheed, the way she was, her title was forgiven?
Okay, so the question is about Waraka dying as a shaheed in her home, and whether that would count as a prophecy or not, because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned her dying as a shaheed, and this came to pass. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. That is correct, but if you remember from the very first class, I said I have to make a distinction when we're talking about prophecies. We're not having a class specifically about prophecy. These classes are about signs at the end of time. So signs at the end of time are prophecies that have wording such as, the hour shall not come until, you shall see, there will be, it shall come to pass that, there will be a time that. It is these signs, these particular aspects of prophecy that we are interested in. Because nabuwa, prophecy, nabuwat, those are just prophecies. But what we are interested in particular are the prophecies around the signs of the end of time. Those are the things, what's known as ashratu sa'a. There are a particular body of them. Otherwise, the discussion around prophecy would be a lot bigger. But we are honing in and only looking at a particular aspect of them, because these are the ones that are significant in terms of understanding the signs of the end and what's coming. Right? Any final question? No? Okay. So we'll close here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك إنه غفور رحيم الحميد الراحمين ولا إله إلا الله والسلام عليكم.